good evening.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Malini.
Hello, Krishna.
Who's this?
Hare Krishna, Baba.
Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna. How are you?
Good. How are you?
You decided to join us today.
I guess so.
Okay, I'm just letting people in the
Yes.
meeting.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
How are you?
Charan Vandana.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hi.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So glad you joined us.
Yes, everybody is waiting for you.
I'm just letting people in,
Yes.
and just one more minute, then we'll start.
That's true. Today, Sneha Thakur, she's here.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Oh, Sneha Thakur, she's here.
Yes, I see her.
Yes. She's from India. Not here.
She's calling from India. Hare Bo.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, beta. How are you?
Good. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hi, Twinkle. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, how are you?
Good, good. You?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Aarti.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Aarti, how are you?
I'm a little sick, but I'm here.
Okay, so we won't try to bother you too much.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Sorry, who was that? I couldn't check.
Himani.
Hi, Himani. Hare Krishna. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Oh, I think I don't see your video. That's why.
I am also a bit sick.
Oh, no.
So that's why.
What's going on?
I don't know.
It's not this class, is it?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Okay, listen, I think we can start. So what we'll do is I'm going to share my screen and we will do the invocation prayers before we start. Okay, let's just try it here.
Prabhuji, are you having this class from the temple or from home?
I'm home.
Okay, okay.
I should say your home. So you see the invocation prayers on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we'll start with that.
Namo
Namo Vishnu Padaya
Padaya
Krishnaya
Bhutale
Srimati
Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Iti
Namine
Namaste
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे
जय श्री
कृष्ण चैतन्य
नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर
श्रीवासादि गौर
श्रीवासादिगौरवृन्द
Govinda.
Hare Krishna Hare
हरे कृष्ण
Krishna Krishna Hare
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 Hare.
Hare Rama Hare
Rama
Rama
Rama.
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Now we pray to the devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.
वैष्णवाभ्यो नमो नमः
Jai. Jai. Ashrita Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll stop sharing the screen now. And before we start, I would like to know, actually I asked those, there's some people here who were not here last week. So they will simply announce themselves, just the name and the city they are in, then you can proceed from there. So this is your first week, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Gautam. This is my first class, and I am from Burlington, Ontario.
Thank you. Gautam, can you put your video on so we can see who?
To be honest, I'm with the desktop. I don't have the webcam right now.
No worries.
I'll arrange it as soon as possible.
Next time. That's okay. No worries.
Next time.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna. This is Anupama Nair.
Hare Krishna.
I'm in Brampton.
Brampton. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Dhanyavad.
So welcome to all of you. Also, the other thing is, before we start, does anyone have any questions from last week before we start with this week? No? Okay, all right. So then we'll start. So today we are covering chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita. And so you may recall from the last class that Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Lord Krishna in response to Arjuna's refusal to fight. And this was day one, obviously, before the war actually started. And like before the war started and before even the first arrow was shot. So it is said that the entire conversation lasted 45 minutes. Before I go on, can you hear me fine?
if it can be little bit louder
Yes.
that's
I'm going to get my earphone, okay? Just 1 second. Okay, how's this?
oh,
Yeah,
wow.
that's better.
Okay, all right. Okay, we will do that.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So, as I was saying, that Gita was spoken before the war actually started. So that was day one of the war. And it is said that it lasted about 45 minutes. But did you know that Sanjay did not narrate this to Dhritarashtra until the 10th day of the 18-day war? So you may recall, those of you who have read the translation of the verses, the very first verses says Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetra. You may recall that. And he's asking his charioteer and confidant, Sanjay, but this is on the 10th day. So what happened was that, being blind, Dhritarashtra did not travel to the battleground of Kurukshetra. And he stayed in his capital city of Hastinapur. And he felt very confident that even if each of the 5 Pandavas killed 10 of his sons on average, then he will still have 50 sons left because he had 100 sons. So So if the Pandavas kill 50 of them, he'll still have 50 left, and they'll rule over the kingdom. But what happened was, once Dronacharya, who was the commander-in-chief of the Kauravas, and also their teacher of the military arts, he was killed. And then Bhishma took over as commander-in-chief. Now on the 10th day, even he was felled by the arrows of Arjuna. When that happened, he got very, Dhritarashtra got very nervous. He called Sanjaya, his charioteer and confidant, from Kurukshetra to Hastinapur, where Dhritarashtra was staying, to explain, hey, what's going on? What is happening? He knew that Sanjaya had been given a benediction by his guru Vyasdev to be able to see things that happened far away and in the past, or in the past. So then Sanjaya is there. Now the chapter 1 starts by Dhritarashtra asking Sanjaya. And his first question was, what did his sons, that's Dhritarashtra's sons, and Pandavas do in the battlefield? It's a very interesting question, because in that inquiry, Dhritarashtra actually revealed his doubts about his victory, his nervousness over somehow the war being cancelled, and his ongoing malice against the sons of his younger brother Pandu. So what does that mean? What that means is that he had doubts about his victory because he realized that the war was happening in Kurukshetra, which is a dharma kshetra, which is a place of religious significance. This is where the pious deeds, religious deeds are performed by people. And in such a place, the chances of the righteous, pure and virtuous winning over the wrongdoers are greater than in other places, even if the odds are stacked against these righteous people. So Dhritarashtra's doubts came due to him being aware that he and his sons were in the wrong. He was nervous because he thought Lord Krishna might play some tricks and convince his son Duryodhana to agree to a compromise solution, which he did not want. And he showed his malice towards the Pandavas by calling them Pandavas instead of Kauravas, which they all were. It's like he was saying, hey, these people, the sons of Pandus, belong to a different dynasty. And therefore, they were not rightful claimants to the throne of the Kuru dynasty. A very crooked mindset. Then in verses 2 to 20, Sanjaya first describes his son Duryodhana, describes what Duryodhana is up to. And he's seeing the two armies where innumerable soldiers have assembled and they're facing each other. The generals and the leaders of both sides are in the front. Now Duryodhana observes, and without even realizing, he shows his fear of the Pandava army by pointing out to his commander-in-chief Dronacharya about the valor and strength of some of the generals in the Pandava army. And he mentions 20 names. One of them was Drashtadyumna, who is the commander-in-chief for the Pandavas. Drashtadyumna is the brother of Draupadi and the son of King Drupad. And he was prophesied to kill Dronacharya. So Duryodhana is kind of reminding Dronacharya that, look, this person is there. There's a long story about how Dhritarashtra was prophesied to be the killer of Dronacharya. We can talk about it some other time or at the end of this class if we have time. But right now I'll move on. Duryodhana also mentions some formidable warriors in the Pandava side, as if to remind Dronacharya, his own teacher, how difficult his task is going to be. Then again, in the name of encouraging his commander-in-chief, Duryodhana boasts about his army and all the warriors on his side. And he names them one by one and crows about their glories and valor. He mentions Bhishma, Karna, Kripacharya. They were all on Kaurava's sides. So he's basically simply trying to fire them up and psych them to get excited about the war. And then, as if to convince himself of a victory, he declares that these warriors are willing to sacrifice their lives for him. He does not realize that while his dad is physically and morally blind, due to the results of this war, which is total destruction of his clan, he refuses to accept that those on the side of Krishna always win. He doesn't understand that his greed, his envy, and material desires are forcing him to think in terms of I, me, and mine. And anxiety, frustration, and disappointments are inevitable in his life, just like they are on anybody who keeps thinking in terms of I, me, and mine. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a role play. And I'm going to ask all of you to get inside the, sorry, I would let some people in. I am going to ask you to get into the head of Dhritarashtra. And basically, what I said was that he was anxious, he was nervous, he was doubtful regarding the outcome of the war. I will give some reasons why that was the case. So what my question to you, and you do that by getting into the head of Dhritarashtra, is what was the fundamental root cause of what Dhritarashtra was feeling at this time? What would explain his state of mind? The fundamental reason for it, maybe in 2 words, 3 words. I don't know if my question is clear or not. Let me ask differently. Why was Dhritarashtra so anxious, so nervous, and worried about the outcome of the war when Pandavas were not? Maybe that's a helpful hint.
Was it his insecurity?
Yeah, but why? What makes somebody insecure?
Because he knew he was wrong. He knew he was not doing justice to the Pandavas.
Okay, so that's definitely one reason. What else?
Because he knew Krishna was on the Pandava side.
Yes, absolutely right. So essentially, there are 2 types of consciousness. It's Krishna consciousness and material consciousness. So the characteristic of people in material consciousness is that they're dependent upon themselves or others for their success. So for example, Dhritarashtra was depending upon his generals, his soldiers, his sons on winning the war. Like somebody said, deep inside he knew he was wrong. But his greed, his envy, his attachment to his son made it impossible for him to accept the compromise solution. But it left him with a feeling of discomfort. The anxiety comes from not knowing the future. What will happen in the future? And not trusting Krishna that whatever he does will be good for you. And finally, Dhritarashtra kept bad association of people like Shakuni and all that. And he rejected the sage advice of his well-wishers like Krishna, like Vidura, like Akrura when he came to visit him. And all these people, they kept giving him good advice, they kept rejecting it. So those are the characteristics of people in material consciousness, and that's why people in material consciousness are always in anxiety. They have doubts about the future. and they worry about the future. And they feel insecure all the time. As opposed to people in Krishna consciousness who simply depend upon Krishna for everything. So no worry. That's why the peace formula comes later on in Bhagavad Gita, where if you know you can depend upon Krishna for everything, then there's no worries, nothing to worry about. Any questions? Is it clear or?
Yeah, very clear.
Okay, so then let's get into the head of Duryodhana. So all these things that he said that I talked about, so what's he trying to do? What is Duryodhana's state of mind at this time? So if you recall what I said, what he was trying to do, then maybe you'll have the answer.
He was trying to see who all are present, kind of understand like what are the people who are dangerous, and then how he can kind of win the battle. So he was counting on all those people, like,
Sure.
because those were the weak points for him. So it was kind of making sure, but at the same time he was also scared.
Yep.
As you mentioned, they were in Kurukshetra, Dharmkshetra.
Yeah.
So that's why he was scared as well.
Sure.
And
What
plus
else?
Krishna was there.
Of course, yes. What else? Anybody? So because his friends were all material, he was doubtful about the loyalty. Even his own guru, he wasn't sure that he was loyal. So he kept accusing him that you're so sympathetic to the Pandavas. You have soft heart for them, and so on and so forth. The other thing Duryodhana kept doing was kept planning and planning and planning. And that's another characteristic of materialistic, material consciousness people. They plan a lot, but they don't depend upon Krishna for the results. And then they worry why they did not get the result they were looking for. And once again, because of lack of Krishna consciousness, he was in anxiety, he had all these fears and doubts, etc., etc. Not a very happy man, even at the battlefront. So I have another question for you. Now, everybody should answer this. Does a Dhritarashtra or a Duryodhana ever enter your head? If it happened to you sometime, give me an example of what happened and how did you handle that? Is the question clear? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Who would like to answer it? So in other words, if I use different words, have you ever been in a situation where you were so much in anxiety, so afraid of what will happen, not sure what the future brings for you? Has that ever happened to you?
Well, I guess I'll go because
please go, yeah.
nobody else is. So this has been happening lately. I've been having like a lot of work issues. I just started a new job and like adjusting to it. It's busy time. So I guess I keep planning on different things and not really have my head like straight, and like Krishna will take care of this, I think. So I get distracted at times. And that's the reason why that like brings me more anxiety. Maybe I'll lose my job or like something bad's going to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. Thank you. Anybody else wants to share?
I think this is so common actually. Like for an ordinary human being like me, these situations happen so many times.
Yes.
I'm very honest to you here. Like,
thank you. I appreciate that.
What is waiting for me and what should I do? And knowing fully well at the end of it, Krishna will help us, and he had done it many times. Still, like we are human beings, and this anxiety does come actually.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And what's the basic cause of that anxiety? It's lack of faith in Krishna.
100%, and I fully agree with you.
Yeah, and that's what happens. So this is why we need to always know that we can and we should depend upon Krishna for everything. Then we are at peace. Whatever happens, happens. And somehow we should have this faith that whatever happens is good for us. Because
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I understand there's lack of faith, and then I see it as not able to remember it sometimes. So remember that he's around. Like sometimes my conscience doesn't automatically bring me there. Maybe I'm not at that level of being a devotee, I guess. So can you comment on that?
Yeah, no, so that's a very good point. And the reason sometimes we don't remember is that we get busy with material things in our material life, and no time to remember. But when I said faith, what it meant was that when you have faith, then you're always dependent upon Krishna. And when you're always dependent upon Krishna, you're always thinking about Krishna, subconsciously or consciously. It doesn't have to be that chanting all the time. It just means that subconsciously he's there, and you have this faith that he's there, he's my best friend, he's my well-wisher, and he will do whatever it takes to help me out. Then it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be chanting all the time out loud. You don't have to have a japa mala in your hand all the time. You don't have to have Bhagavad Gita in front of you all the time. But in the back of your mind, you know he's there. And you know that I'm dependent upon him, and therefore he'll take care of me. And just that will remind you,
Also,
whatever situation it is. Please go ahead.
Also, I would like to add that there is a quote like Hari Kripa, Hari Ichha. So whenever the circumstances are adverse and we don't want that thing to happen, we should believe that whatever Krishna is doing, it's doing for our good.
Yes.
And if the things which are going, which are in our favor part, we should think that Krishna, it is because Krishna is pleasant on us and he is giving us what we want.
Absolutely.
So in adverse, we should always remember it's Hari Kripa, Hari Ichha, and whenever it is good, then it's Hari Kripa.
Yes, so that's very good. Very good.
I have one question on that. What do we do in that scenario when it comes to us? We get panic at that time. Like we get worried, we are panicking, we don't know what to do. Yes, we believe in Krishna and we know that Krishna will protect us from every corner, but still when sorry, got cut off. There's phone ring in between. So in that scenario, what do we do? We get at that time, you know, our high blood pressure, we get headache and all that. We don't know what to do at that time. Everything is zero, and we know that Krishna will help us. Slowly we get to that point. We go to the temple room, we relax ourselves. But what do we do at that panicking time? Could you please guide me on that point?
Yeah, so basically the whole Gita is about that. We will see later on in this chapter how Arjun found himself completely stumped. What to do? He had so many conflicting emotions. I have to kill my relatives, kill people whom I love, you know, what will happen to the society, on and on and on. We'll talk about it in some detail. And he came to a point where he says, I can't fight. He put his bow down. I said, I can't fight. Krishna help me. And so basically Krishna then narrated the whole Gita. So as we go through these chapters, you'll find out that once we are able to increase our dependence upon Krishna, once we are able to develop faith that Krishna is the supreme controller, nothing happens against his wishes. Once we understand that our role is simply serve him and do our duty, leave the results upon him. No matter how hard we try, we cannot control the results. Then anxiety goes away. And then you say, you know what? I'm going to wait for Krishna to inspire me to take an action. And that's the action I will take. And whatever that is, you know in your heart, it's the right one because it came from Krishna. And just go with that. I'm not saying that means everything will go good in your life. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that whatever happens in your life is by Krishna's plan and therefore Krishna's mercy, and Krishna's mercy can never be wrong or bad. So accept whatever happens in your life as Krishna's mercy, then you'll be happy. Good things will happen, bad things will happen. Things you don't want will happen, things you want will happen. But you have no control which ones happen and when. So if you can come to that point, then at least your worries, your anxieties, your frustrations, your stress levels, they'll be all gone. Okay? And that'll come with more chanting, will come with more reading, they'll come with more association with the devotees, asking more questions, on and on and on. So it's a process that you have to go through, but it will happen. Okay?
I have a practical example to offer, if I may.
Oh, please do, Palak, yes.
So, first of all, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. This is Palak, by the way, from Toronto.
And, my apologies for being late.
No worries.
I have though. It was taking a test right before I joined it. And it was a term test, so it's a big, percent of my grade. And just about as I was like, if I had to my level of faith through the day, it was really high in the morning, but then as soon as like we got closer to hitting submit, I could see it go down. I was panicking. I was like, oh, how do I do this? And just listening to you right now, it made me realize that there was a lot of attachment to a specific outcome.
Result. Yes.
To a specific result, which is why, I'm not ready to accept that, okay, if I do badly, that is the plan. Krishna wants to teach me humility. I have an attachment to doing well. So the faith part there is just like deferring to him and just trying to accept that, I may not know and I cannot control. So yeah.
So that's another very good point. Not only I don't control it, he's the controller, but he's also a lot more intelligent than I am. Therefore, he knows what's good for me. I don't. I have an idea of what's good, but that's not necessarily the right thought process. So once you have those kind of understanding, it becomes easier to accept what's happening in your life. But just know one thing, you don't control, no matter how hard you try, what happens in your life. Just that one thought, go away with that thought from this class, that I do not control what happens in my life. I can pray, I can request, but finally I have to accept whatever it is Krishna has made happen. Okay? Then at least you'll live without stress or minimal stress. Okay?
I
would
agree
like
to
to
this
add-
101%.
I'm sorry?
I agree to this 101% what you
okay,
said.
thank you.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Yes, Anshu?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to say like this happens with us every day. Like when we in the starting we have a lot of faith, but at the end of the day we are demoralized and we are strangled in our problems. So what I follow is that in the morning I will remember God a lot, and then by the afternoon I will say, okay, karma is puja, like karma hi puja hai. So then I will focus on my karmas so that I should not do anything harmful or anything bad to others. And then by the end, like by the evening, I would focus on more on like being positive about the things. So what I will try is like if I'm very upset, I will divert my mind from my problems to the like I will go on YouTube and I will watch any serial. Like there are some Hindi serials episodes which are like Man Mein Vishwas. They all revolve around the God and the Krishna's real stories. So I keep watching them until like I get relaxation. So it is like I will watch one episode a day, but in a week's time or 10 days, you will feel that you have lot of motivation and your like faith has increased. So I usually follow this approach that I keep on increasing my faith and I will remember the God throughout the day by chanting or by remembering the name or by remembering the mantras. Because there are some mantras which remind me of the God always.
That's a
So
very
that is
good
also
point.
useful, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good point.
Yeah.
If we read about the devotees who have been put into difficulty, but they maintain their faith and how Krishna came to help them, then that also strengthens our faith. So whether you're watching the serial or reading a scripture, but idea is the same, that you are reading about devotees with great amount of faith. Just reading that and seeing their actions and reactions will increase your faith. Okay, all right, so let's move. Okay, so then verses 15 through 18, it says that everybody blows their conch shell. Lord Krishna, Pandava brothers, etc., etc. And the interesting thing is, verse 19 says, the blowing of these different conch shells shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. And no such thing happened to the Pandavas. When Bhishma blew his conch shell, and other generals in the Kaurava side blew their conch shell. The reason is very simple. This is what we were talking about. Krishna's devotees are fearless because they have full faith in Krishna's protection. No matter what, Krishna is there, he will protect me. There's a wonderful verse in Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 31, and you may have heard this. It says, Kaunte pratijani name bhakta pranashyati. This Kaunte, Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotee is never vanquished. So all we have to do is become his devotee and we will win every time. The verses 20 through 26 do a nice description of the contrast between the mindset of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana with that of Arjuna, who was a friend and a devotee of Krishna. You may know the story that Arjuna was given the option of taking Krishna's army or Krishna. Krishna saying, I'm not going to bear any arms. And Arjuna opted for that. He said, I want Krishna, I don't want the army. And Krishna had a very big army. Now Arjuna is at the battlefield. The chariots and the elephants and the horses and the soldiers, they're all ready to fight. Battle cries have been sounded. All systems are go for the start of the war. It's like T-minus 10 minutes in the aerospace technology when the rocket is about to take off. They do the countdown. Like 10 minutes to go before the war. But Arjuna wants to take a final look at the armies on both sides. Prabhupada says in the purport of verse 22, he says, as a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and other relatives. But he was forced to come to the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana.
No, it's okay.
Who was never agreeable. Can everybody please mute yourself?
Yeah.
I can do it. Okay. Okay. So there was Arjuna, did not want to be in the battle, but was forced to do it because of Duryodhana, who never wanted to agree to any kind of peaceful negotiation. So Arjuna requests Krishna to drive to the middle of the battlefield so he could satisfy his curiosity regarding who are these opponents? Who does he have to kill to win this war and regain the kingdom? That was rightfully his to start with. He doesn't feel the urgency to start the war. He doesn't allow himself to be affected by the intensity of the situation. Rather, he wants to take the time to reflect on this situation. So as he looks over, what does he see? He sees his grandfathers, his teachers, his uncles, his brothers, his nephews, grandsons, friends, and all his well-wishers standing in front of him. When he sees them, he has this overwhelming feeling of compassion. Not envy, not greed, not the desire for kingdom, but just compassion for these people. And his compassion was not limited to his relatives and friends, but to every soldier who was present in that battlefield. Now seeing this, he's uncertain about fighting to kill his relatives so he could enjoy his kingdom. So he tells Krishna, my dear Lord Krishna, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth is drying up. Now, Srila Prabhupada makes a very interesting comment. He says at this point that such symptoms in Arjuna of quivering body and drying mouth, they were not due to the weakness of Arjuna, but to his soft-heartedness. So he's just showing his compassion. That's all it is. But then something actually startling happens. Arjuna makes a confession to Krishna. He says, and it's in text 29, he says to Krishna, my whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on end. My bow Gandiva is slipping from my hand and my skin is burning. And Srila Prabhupada explains that Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are actually out of material fear, namely loss of life. And that is due to the material conception of life. And that's the startling point. Arjuna was a pure devotee and a friend of Lord Krishna. And suddenly he has developed this material consciousness. And as his next few statements will reveal, that his mind and his thought process is no different from a person in material consciousness. That is a person on bodily platform. So Arjuna goes on to say, I'm unable to stay in the battlefield. He's now thinking that his victory in this battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. Like all materially conscious persons, he's not realizing that his real interest lies in pleasing Krishna, which he can do simply by following Krishna's instructions and doing what Krishna desires. But he's thinking now about his own personal material happiness. And he thinks that happiness would be dampened if he won the kingdom at the cost of the lives of his near and dear ones. Now he's not recognizing that all real happiness comes from Krishna and not his relatives. So the point to note here that I'm trying to make is that material consciousness leads us to see everything in terms of relationship with our body and leads to the concept of I, me, and mine. My son, my cousin, my house, my car, my kingdom. This is mine, not yours. That's yours, and maybe I want to negotiate this. And then Arjuna goes a step further in acting like a person on bodily platform. And that is, he starts to preach Krishna and starts espousing his own concocted philosophy. And we'll talk in a second about that point because I think a lot of people do that. And we'll discuss that in more details. So now he tells Krishna, I don't think I will enjoy this kingdom when my hands are red with the blood of my close relatives. He says he foresees inevitable suffering as a consequence of this war. He says all these women will become widows when their husbands are killed, and then these women will be exploited by evil men who are left behind. Arjuna sees an increase in illegitimate progeny. He sees loss of family traditions. And loss of family traditions always open the path to hell. for future generations. He's not done yet. He goes one step further. And there's something else that people in material consciousness do. He assumes that he knows better than Krishna. So now Arjuna is advising Krishna what is better. And he tells Krishna, it would be better if the sons of Dhritarashtra killed him, Arjuna, unarmed and unresisted. So now what's happening? Arjuna is now, by Krishna's plan, acting like a common man, bereft of any spiritual vision. He's looking at this whole world on a bodily platform and therefore suffering from illusion of I, me, and mine. He no longer understands that he is not this body, he's a spirit soul, a part and parcel of Krishna. And his only relationship is with Krishna, not with so-called cousins and uncles and grandfathers, etc. He doesn't understand suddenly the purpose of his life. He's completely bewildered as to what is his duty in this situation. He is overwhelmed by grief and now determined not to fight. So he puts his weapons down and says, I'm not fighting. Now, something very interesting has happened. As I was saying, Arjuna is a pure devotee. But Krishna, Lord Krishna has now put his pure devotee Arjuna just so he could teach us lessons on the right duty to perform, to tell us who we really are, what is our real identity, and the important need to stay above the bodily platform. If you want to be happy, if you want to be at peace, if you want to be, sorry, I was going to let somebody in. Okay, so if you want to be in a state of consciousness that keeps us above all these problems. So I'm going to stop here for a second, and it's your turn to speak. And my question is, just discussed Arjuna's thought process, this startling change in the way he's thinking. So I would like you to compare between the spiritual platform and material platform. And in terms of three things, what is the definition of success in material platform and a spiritual platform? That's question number one. Second question is, what is the definition of opulence on material platform and a spiritual platform? And third is, what is the definition of happiness in a spiritual platform and material platform? So you can answer one by one. So let's start with success first. So define success on a spiritual platform and on material platform. So the floor is yours.
I guess I'll start.
Please, yeah.
Success on a material platform is like the stereotypical, like, get a degree, get a job, get a car, get a house, get a family, get a white picket fence, and then that's like success, right? I think success on a spiritual platform is letting all that go and getting closer to Krishna, like building your own personal relationship with Krishna.
Yes. Yes. Anybody likes to add to that? No? Okay, then perfect answer, Asta. Okay, what about opulence? What's opulence on a material platform? What's opulence in spiritual platform?
Getting all the latest technology, gadgets and cars, jewelry is the material opulence, and in spiritual life, if we would consider like giving the best, like offering our best resources towards Krishna, and like engaging them in the service of Krishna.
Okay, very good. Anybody wants to add?
Can I add to
Please, yeah, absolutely.
So I was thinking more so opulence in the sense for the spiritual platform is sort of being content and satisfied with everything that is provided to you by Krishna. So in the sense that you're not exploiting the resources around you to gain more than what you already have. And then on the materialistic platform, I was saying that, you know, exploiting pretty much every opportunity that comes about you to gain more and more and more for yourself, but not understanding that there's a cap to that.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so let me ask you a question then. What is that one thing, if you had, and you'll be considered the most opulent person on a spiritual platform?
One who has complete faith in Krishna, and no matter what happens, even bad, even good, he is completely reliable. Like he is completely dependent on Krishna.
Okay, you're very close to what I want to hear. Go ahead.
Humility.
Okay. I was thinking in terms of a person or a thing, personality, that if you have that you're the most opulent.
I think saving for us is saving only for us is materialistic opulence, and sharing with others is spiritual opulence.
Okay. All right. What else?
Can you repeat your question again, Kamini?
Yeah, sure. So what is opulence? The definition of opulence in spiritual platform and material platform. Like whom do you say, oh, most opulent person because he or she has this, on material side and spiritual side?
Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Nankapa, you go first.
Yeah. So on a materialistic platform, one who has more money is considered as opulent.
Okay.
And on spiritual platform, one who has more bhakti is considered as more opulent. Is what?
Okay. Yeah. You were saying, Ritu?
So for me, this is just my mindset. And
of course.
What I believe strongly in, that opulence, whether it's opulence or, you know, everything has to be balanced. You know, you can't just say somebody who just have money is opulent. No. Good friends, family, you know, good health is also part of opulence. Mindset, good mental health is also a part of opulence. So that's materialistic. Spiritually, same thing. Somebody who is untouched by the ups and downs of life and who is always staying Krishna conscious, thinking Krishna is there for me no matter what. But overall, like I personally think all three questions are actually the spiritual side is the very similar answer. You know, it's all about being Krishna conscious. But for me, one thing, when somebody is saying, okay, somebody said, I don't know who, that a spiritual devotee is somebody who is just content with whatever they have. That could be stagnant. So for me, I feel I don't mind having goals in my life, but I'm not going to be disturbed if I don't get them or if I don't achieve them. If I achieve them, I thank Krishna and I move on. I don't stick to them and I don't feel like now, oh my God, okay, this is me. Or let's say I have a house or I have a car or I want to upgrade my car. If I get it, fine. I'm happy about it. Thank you to Krishna, offer it to him and move on. I don't know if I'll have that car in future, or I don't know if I'll have the house in future, but I know my mind will be stable and I will be Krishna conscious, or, in gratitude, and that's it.
Yeah,
so for me, I want to make my goals. This is something maybe because I did not perceive this right in last 8 years being ISKCON, that people always talk about, okay, thinking about material is wrong. No, it's not. We need food. We need roof over our head. People need money for rent. Right? But yes, don't get attached to the results. I've had many failures, but I'm so resilient. I just get up next day and move on, no problem.
Right.
That's me.
So if I summarize what you said, I think what you're saying is, if you're content, then you're opulent.
No.
No, that's not what you're saying?
No, I don't want to. I have everything that a person needs to live on this planet.
That's content, isn't it?
Yes, but at the same time, I want to move on. I want to grow. But I'm not going to be stuck in that. I mean, if I grow, fine, but I'm going to do my karma every day. I'm going to still get up. I'm still going to go to my office. I'm still going to work. But if I make sales, fine. If I don't, that's fine too. But I'll still sleep happily knowing that I've worked hard enough to get whatever I wanted.
Sure. Great attitude. Yeah, okay. Great attitude. Yes.
That's just me.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly all right. Perfectly all right. Yeah. So basically, I think what I also heard was that in the spiritual platform, if you have your bhakti, if you have Krishna, then you're opulent. I mean, what more could you ask for? If you're dependent upon Krishna, if you're thinking Krishna as your friend, if you have Krishna's mercy, then you're as opulent as you can ever be. And on the material side, obviously, as you were saying, more money, more fame, more power, that's how opulence is defined. But like everything else, material opulence, material success is temporary. Whereas the spiritual success, spiritual opulence is eternal. It goes with you wherever you go. Sorry, go ahead. What about happiness? Any difference in that? The spiritual platform and material.
Consciousness.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
In the material, happiness is temporary. Like you will be happy one moment, next moment you are unhappy. Right. But in the spiritual world, that happiness is permanent.
Yeah, but the question is, what gives you happiness in the spiritual world, and what gives you happiness in the material world?
I wanted to give it a shot.
Okay.
So I've been listening to everybody. I just wanted to add the same thing from the opulent question was first of all, we need the mercy of Krishna. Mm-hmm. I know some people, I'm trying to convince them to come to Krishna consciousness, but they cannot, or their mindset is like that. So the mercy is very important. So that was something I wanted to bring up. But
sure.
Coming to happiness, I think relationships give you happiness, situations give you happiness. If something's going right in your life, or everything that you are doing is giving, that's going right is making you happy. So that's the material one. But the spiritual happiness is when all of this is happening, but at the same time you're keeping Krishna as the center of your attention, and keeping him, because of him and his mercy, everything else is going fine. So that makes it ultimately happy for me, at least.
Sure. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else?
To kind of build on what Twinkle said, I have a point of view on what would perhaps induce material happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just all kinds of sense gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much of a response for the spiritual aspect.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, didn't hear the last part.
Yeah, so I was just saying, I don't know what would constitute spiritual happiness.
Okay.
I only think I have.
Does anyone wants to help him? Help Palak? What is spiritual happiness?
I have a note here. I took a previous class and they were discussing this, and in that class they said that happiness on material platform was sense gratification, and then happiness in the spiritual world would be transcendental bliss.
Yeah, but what is transcendental bliss?
So like a connection with Krishna.
Right. So basically, spiritual happiness is happiness of Krishna. When you do something to please Krishna, you automatically become happy. And that is the spiritual happiness. Material happiness is anything you do for yourself. And when you do for yourself, there are all sorts of problems. Karma is involved, success, failure, all those kind of things, conflicts, all those things become involved. When you do it strictly for the pleasure of Krishna, it's a happiness that's unhindered, it's eternal, and frankly, it's easy to do. It's a matter of having that mindset. Okay? So in this line of discussion, last question is, what is the purpose of life for a materialistic person and for a spiritual person or a devotee? What is the purpose of life for a materialistic person and purpose of life for a devotee?
Materialistic.
Go ahead.
Who is speaking?
Prem, you go ahead.
Okay, so I will say, like, for a materialistic person to make more money, wealth, fame, and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But for a spiritual person, how far he can go in the spiritual world and how much progress he is making. And final goal is to attain God.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, somebody else was trying to speak.
I just had the similar point. It's ultimately, for the spiritual side, I think ultimately going back to Godhead, going for the eternal happiness of the soul rather than the material.
What gives the spiritual, what gives soul happiness? What makes soul happy?
So going back to Godhead, basically.
Well, but that's the end state.
To serve.
Yeah.
Is it
just to serve Krishna? Sorry.
Okay, to serve Krishna, but there are two conditions on that. It's not just serve Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
Two conditions. Does anybody know? So one is, go ahead.
To serve Krishna and his devotees.
True, but there's two conditions.
Oh, to that.
To chant the pure Harinam.
Okay.
I didn't get the question.
So there's service. For example, you go to work, you serve your clients, and you serve your management. That's not the way to serve Krishna. There's a difference between how you serve these two people or whatever, and how you would want to serve Krishna. Also,
like loving service?
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it. What does loving service mean? We use this term a lot, but what does loving service mean? So what's the difference of serving and lovingly serving? What's the difference?
Loving service is like with devotion. You have full faith. You are doing with inner happiness of your own. You are serving the God with that happiness, not like a duty.
Like bhakti.
Yeah, but those are words. I need to hear definitions, because I'm not a very smart person, just so you know. So I need to hear things that I can understand.
I think so. Pure devotion.
What does that mean, though? What does pure devotion mean?
Complete dedication and complete belief.
Yes. Yeah.
Chanting the holy name without any getting results, just with love.
Yes.
With love chanting.
So serving somebody with love means you're not looking for something back.
Yeah.
You're not doing it for your interest.
Yes.
You're not doing this to make yourself happy. You're doing this to make the person you love happy. And the only reason you're doing it that you want to make him happy or her happy. That's why we use the word devotional service. Devotion means love, dedication. Okay, so that's the first thing, that the service to Krishna must be without material motivation. Means I'm serving you, Lord Krishna, but I'm not serving you so you can give me a promotion or a son or a daughter-in-law, son-in-law, or whatever, winning the lottery, whatever. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for simple reason that I want to make you happy. So that's first condition. Second condition is it's not like a 9-to-5 job. It's not like I did my rounds in 2 hours and I did my arti for another hour. Now I'm done. Other 21 hours I can do whatever I want. No, it's incessant, non-stop. It's 24/7. Oh, is somebody sighing? Is it too much? Okay, so but too much or not, those are the two things, and that's what makes the soul happy. So soul happy means that's when we are really happy. Otherwise, it's the happiness of the senses, which is always temporary. And after a while, whatever made you happy today no longer makes you happy. You want something different.
So true.
So spiritual happiness is happiness of Krishna. Material happiness is happiness for me. And that's the essential difference. Okay, let's move on then. So, I mean, basically, I wanted to have this discussion to make it clear that on a spiritual platform, the definition of success, opulence, happiness is very different when we are on a bodily platform. Our decisions, our thought processes are different on the two platforms. Our goals are different. Our ideas on what will make us happy are different. On a spiritual platform, we start to fight against our conditioned thought process of running after temporary and start looking for eternal. So material platform, you're running after everything that's temporary. This money, position, power, fame, house, property, whatever, it's all temporary. And we're running after that. On a spiritual platform, we reject all that. We're running after what's eternal. That's our devotional service. That's our love for Krishna. That's Krishna himself. And then we start to ask a deeper question. Like, what is the purpose of human life? People in material consciousness hardly ever ask that question. This thing, eat, drink, and be merry is good enough. And these questions require or cause a momentous change in our life. And sometimes, actually quite often, cause great degree of uncertainty and confusion in our mind. But that is what also gets us started on our spiritual path. So let us thank Lord Krishna for being our teacher through Arjuna. Arjuna's condition, this transition from spiritual to material consciousness, his surrender to Krishna, his questions to Krishna, and Krishna's answers to Arjuna's questions are all for our benefit. If we understand them, we will be on a platform of knowledge from where we can be prepared to tackle everyday problems. Not just everyday problems, but also totally unusual and unanticipated problems of life. And as we tackle them, we have this confidence that we are on a path that is shown by Lord Krishna. And therefore, we know we are right, on the right path, and we need not worry about the results. If you are on the path shown by Krishna, it has to lead to the right place. And if we have that faith and that understanding, then we're not worried, we're not in anxiety as we are traveling on that path. Yeah, sure, there will be obstacles and there will be doubts that creep up. There will be anxieties, uncertainties, etc. But the Lord is going to be there at every step, guiding us, protecting us, and ultimately putting us on a platform of victory over all things material. Now to stop here, because I used some very heavy words, do you agree with what I said? If yes, why? If you don't agree, why? Anyone?
I agree.
Why?
Because it's coming from you. Seriously.
Okay.
Everything makes sense when you speak.
Okay, thank you.
I actually wanted to clap.
Aw. Thank you. Okay, anybody else wants to comment? Okay, so basically this first chapter shows that Arjun, a pure devotee of Krishna, has been put in this situation only to remind us that we are often in a situation where we are not sure of what our real duty is. Even our close relatives can turn into our enemies for their own selfish reasons. And those who love us may support our enemies for reasons we may never understand. People will take sides, not always ours. The other people's definition of what's right may be totally different from our definition of what's right. Not everybody worries about the long-term future like we do, because they cannot see beyond their immediate needs. At times like these, we are unsure if we should listen to our mind or to our heart. But Krishna is also reminding us that on our own, we may not be able to come to the right solution, that we need help from a wiser person, a guru or a mentor or an elderly person or whatever. We need help. And we should always have somebody like a mentor. Every one of us, regardless of our age, education, or degree of devotion, should have a mentor to whom we can go to ask for guidance. But this will happen all the time. And just remember, don't think that you become such an advanced devotee that this will never happen to you. It can happen to Arjun. Who are we? It can and will happen to us. And we have to be careful about not acting like Arjun did. And I'm going to ask you the same thing that I said about Arjun, if that has happened in your life. So I'm going to ask you first, have you ever preached to Lord Krishna? You stood in front of him and started preaching him.
We cannot
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry. So I was going to say that it's happening constantly.
Yes.
I feel like you know what's best for yourself. You're constantly telling him, this is what I need. This is what should happen. This would prove to me that you're with me. I just feel like there are so many times. And then, you know, time and again, I go through something that I did not want to go through. And when I come through, it's like, oh, wow, you did this for me and for this reason. Or I've been made stronger, or I have been exposed to something like a revelation, something that I didn't know about myself, or something that I didn't know about situations, like learning. So yeah, constantly preaching to Krishna, asking for things that I believe I should have, or I should see, in order to think that Krishna is with me, or, you know, that confirmation.
Yeah, I call that being a consultant to Krishna. This is what you should do. And in that process, we're telling him that we know better than you do.
Exactly.
You don't realize that it's good for me to win a lottery.
Exactly.
So I'm going to tell you, Krishna, that you should make me win a lottery so that I can do this and that and that. And you just simply don't understand that, Krishna. So here I have to tell you, you can say thank me anytime you want, Krishna.
Very true.
Yeah. So who else has done something like that with Krishna? You don't want to admit it, or you don't think
I'll
you've done
tell
it?
you.
Okay, please do. Yeah.
I every day, probably 3 to 5 times a day, talk to Krishna.
Okay.
And I feel like, because nobody is around me anyways, especially in quarantine, I can't go out. I'm home by myself. So all I'm doing is talking to him.
Sure, that's
Even
great.
otherwise, even when I'm driving, I'm just talking. I'm a salesperson, and even at the front desk, I'm always talking. So I'm always, when I'm by myself, I'm talking to Krishna.
Good for
Many
you.
times I'm just making a conversation, but many times I order him like a boss. Like, how come you didn't do this for me? Can you do it, please? And then if it doesn't happen, then I'm like, yeah, I know you didn't do it. Okay, fine. I know, maybe it must be better for me. Always. But I don't complain. I talk to him.
Good for you.
I read somewhere, I think, that divine does listen. You talk to the divine, they talk to you.
Okay.
So that's why maybe I'm always happy.
Good for you. That's great.
So I'm always talking to him.
Good for
I
you.
complain to him. I talk to him. I fight with him a lot as well. But then I make up with him. That's my life.
Hari Bol. Okay. Anybody else? So nobody has ever gone to, other than these two people, has ever gone to Krishna and said, I'd like to have this. I want position or promotion or addition to the family or anything like that. We've never done that?
No,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
Well,
always.
Yeah.
Then why are we not admitting it?
Because we just simply agree and we're ashamed to come in public and say
There's no shame. There's no shame. That is our nature. We treat Krishna as our order carrier, as Bhagavat said. Today ordering, some money. Tomorrow we're ordering some promotion. Next we're ordering some property and car, and things like that. We're always ordering Krishna. You do this for me, do that for me.
I will like to modify that, not order, request, humble request.
Same difference, Prabhu. Same difference. There's no difference, right? You fold your hands, request. I don't fold your hands, it's an order. Same thing.
No, okay. If you take it, yes, every day, like we go to him so many.
All of us. All of us.
I was just saying, like, I was not speaking because we go with a humble request.
Okay.
We cannot dare to order him.
Okay, fair enough. But we're always asking, right? So similarly, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I just want to ask you. So, this is a relationship. So we have conversations. We want to talk, right? Yes, we do our japa, chanting, but the question is, ideally, it's maybe not request, but how do you, what do you say? Like, how do you, you are surrendering, but then there has to be something, whether it's we always use words, right? In a conversation, in a relationship. Ideally, let's say, for instance, you're giving an example. How do you say something to him? Like in the morning, do you just simply say, I offer this day? Or what is it that you say? Because you have to say something, because you want to know that you're having an exchange.
Yes. So excellent question, by the way. So let me give two answers that support each other. Sometimes, no, not sometimes, almost all the time, we do go to Krishna and ask for something. And more often than not always, but more often than not, it's something material. But we do go as devotees to give us his blessings for, changing our mindset so we can do more service, to bless us so we become more purified, take away our material desires. I mean, that also happens. It's not always material. But here is the point. Krishna says that it's okay. It's okay to come to me to ask for something material. It says in Bhagavatam, whether you have material desires or spiritual desires, whether you're looking for liberation or something simply material, come to me and ask me for that with a devotional attitude. And I'll consider it. I may or may not give it, but I'll consider it. And he says, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So just from the way I was asking the question, do not conclude that it's wrong to ask. I'm not suggesting that. He's like our parents. If you don't ask your parents, assuming you're younger than you are, if you don't ask your parents, who will you ask? When you're 5 years, 6 years, 8 years old, and you want some toy, who will you ask if you don't ask your parents? So it's 100% okay to ask Krishna for something like this. But we should know that we're asking for something material is not the best thing for us. And that's the distinction I wanted to bring up. So yes, by all means ask, but no, that's not the best thing. Why? Because Krishna can give you something much more valuable, much better than whatever you can imagine of asking. So why not get that? But if your thought process is not gone to that level yet, then go ahead. Ask for, $5,000, $50,000, $5 million, whatever. For him, it's nothing. And compared with his pure devotional service, it's nothing. But if you have not reached to that point, then that's okay. Go ahead and ask for $5 million, or marriage, or daughter, son, whatever you want. Go ahead and ask. Nothing wrong with that. But know that that's not the best thing. Prabhupada used to give the example, you don't want to go to a multimillionaire and ask for 5 cents. Kind of stupid. And that's the point. But if that's what you need, then that's what you need. Go ask him. Okay? The second thing I was going to say was that a lot of times devotees become very smart. And we love to act smart with Krishna. The rest of the world may have proven us the dumbest guy on earth. But in front of Krishna, we act very smart. So sometimes the devotees would go and say, hey, I know I'm not supposed to ask you for anything material. So I'm not asking anything. I'm not asking for anything. But then wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know what's in my heart, but I'm not saying anything. That's the same thing. But anyway, the bottom line is, if you want to ask for something material, go ahead. If you don't go to Krishna, who will you go to? It's more wrong to go to somebody else than go to Krishna. But as you are asking for material things, no, that's not the best option you have. So does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you one other question. And that is, have you ever competed with Krishna? I see one person shaking her head. And everybody else is silent. Go ahead.
For me, it is like a sin, basically, if we think that.
No, I know that. But question is, have you?
No, but how can we think of a sin like that?
Competed against Krishna. You're saying, how can you think like that? I'm going to tell you how. Anybody wants to answer that?
Prabhuji, I wanted to ask, in what sense do you mean?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you that. But just, you know what competition is? You can do something, I can do better. That's competition.
Yeah.
Okay, so just that. Just that is a quick question.
I think I can answer that. I think in the sense of fame, and that's one aspect of Krishna that I was like when I was younger, I had this like need for fame, and it's not a direct competition with Krishna, but like I knew that was one of the opulences, and I knew like, okay, that's what I want to be. Like I want everybody to know my name. No, and then you grow up and you realize how foolish that is. But I think I was competing on that.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. But there are many more. And when I answered it, we'll all say yes. But I want you to think if you have ever competed with Krishna.
No, we are done. We want the answer.
Yeah, stop going around the bush.
We are very curious, actually.
Okay, so let me ask you this question differently. Have you in your life, entire life, ever taken credit for something you have done?
Several times. Huh? Several times a day.
Several times. Not all the time?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time, yeah.
Right? Now, what did we say before? Krishna is the supreme controller, which means he controls all the results. Whatever results you get, they come from him. So when we say, I did this, it's my credit, what are we saying? No, Krishna, it's not your credit, it's my credit. Isn't that competing with him? You're taking his position away and saying, no, I have done it. And we all have done that, if not more than once, at least once. So we are all always competing. Anytime we want to take credit for whatever we have done, anytime we start bragging about what we have done, what our qualifications are, what our accomplishments are, we're competing against him. We're taking it away from him. And by the way, that's a symptom of jealousy, envy against Krishna. So we are all envious of Krishna, believe it or not. We may not like this, but that's who we are. We are envious of Krishna. And by the way, did you know that we ended up in this material world because we are envious of Krishna? What did we say? We said, why should you be the boss? I want to be the boss. Why should you be the only person enjoying? I want to enjoy. Why should you be the only person being served? I want to be served. That's how we got here, by the way. That was the origin. That was the start of our miseries. Yes, no, agree?
I never thought it this way, but you are right. No,
Yeah.
you are right. I never thought it this way.
Yeah.
But you are right.
Yeah, most of us don't think like that, but that's what it is. Right? So, so this is why Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, they were suffering so much. And Arjuna is about to suffer. If he didn't have Krishna with him to preach to him, he would have suffered the same thing. So this is why it's important to understand these points. Okay, we're getting very close to 9:30. Any questions, comments, realizations before we finish?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Jai Srila Prabhupada. How are you?
Good, Prabhuji. So can I add one thing? So we are discussing, I joined you like after halfway.
That's
and material successfulness and the successful on the platform of spiritual level.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share one pastime with Prabhupada.
Mm-hmm.
In Mumbai, one time Birla family, as most of us know, the Birla family, they are the big industrialists in India. Still, they are one of the biggest. And they asked to Prabhupada that you need to give a lecture to our place. And then Mrs. Birla asked the servant, she phoned and she asked, okay, what are the topics Prabhupada is going to speak? Then the list was provided to her, and then she chose to ask Prabhupada, can you speak something on successfulness? And the message came to Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, these people have everything. They are the biggest industrialists, and they still want to listen about successfulness. They are already successful. They still want this thing. Prabhupada said, yes, okay. Evening, Prabhupada reached there. Prabhupada was there. Prabhupada never spoke anything about successfulness. He spoke how to start worshipping Radharani rather than worshipping the Seravali, the goddess of loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave the example during the class that one time a jailer went to the jail and he asked to the prisoners, today I'm going to give you whatever you want. Ask me. Then The prisoner, they were happy. Are you sure you can give me whatever I want? Yes. He said, yes, today I have the authority that I can give you whatever you want. And the prisoner asked, okay, give me new bed. So the Prabhupada was so smart that it depends on our intelligence level. If we are intelligent spiritually, our material life will streamline automatically. So just I wanted to bring to everybody's notice, it is our intelligence, how we apply and how we listen to our gut feeling. We all get gut feeling, whether it is spiritual level or material level, but that's what we get. But our intelligence plays the most important part in our lives, both sides. So that's the only thing I wanted to share with you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Nice realization, nice class. We are all blessed to have you on board.
Thank you, Prabhuji, and thank you for your contribution. I appreciate that. Anybody else?
Can I?
Please, yeah, please do.
So you mentioned you're busy 7 days a week doing classes, right?
Pretty well, yes.
And we're fortunate to have you on every Thursday. And I was wondering if you can continue even after 20 classes. We don't want to leave this class.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. Let's see how it goes. You know, I was telling my wife that my measure of success is that after the 5th class, all these 23, 24 people show up still. Then I know I'm doing all right. So let's see. And we'll figure out what we do after 20 weeks if everybody's still, interested. And we'll see. Thank you very much. But, yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments, realizations, questions before we start?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I had a couple of questions. I had 4 actually.
Okay, so just one second. Just one second. I did want to say that if somebody has to go, they're welcome to. There's no problem. It is the time. But for those who want to stay, listen to the question or ask questions, I'm still available. So please do not feel that because question answer is still going on that you have to stay. You need to go, please, by all means, feel free to go. Okay, go ahead.
So I was reading the text 3738, and it was talking about I read the sentence. It said this was in the purport basically, that obligation is not binding when the effect is bad, and the entire thing was around that. So I wanted to get a little more clarity because I think I didn't understand the meaning of that. Text 3738.
Okay, so I don't have my Gita here with me. So what was the sentence that you were asking for?
The sentence said that obligation is not binding when the effect is bad. That was one of the sentences there.
Okay, let me get my Gita. Okay, just one second.
Yeah.
Text 37, you said?
So I have the mini one. This has 37 and 38 combined.
It is same in all the books. Okay. Just a second.
And then it said that obligation is actually binding when the effect is good, but when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound.
Okay, let me just read this. Oh yeah, so okay. So what he's talking about is that there is an unwritten rule that Kshatriyas, when challenged to fight, cannot refuse, because their refusal is interpreted as cowardice. And what Prabhupada is saying is that if the result is going to be good, then you cannot refuse. If it's going to result in something bad, horrible for the rest of the world or rest of the people or whatever, a group of people, then you can say, no, look, I'm not going to fight because it's silly or stupid or whatever. And he's saying you're not obliged to
refuse.
To say yes. Yeah, I mean, you can refuse. That's what basically he's saying. So like basically the point being here is that Arjun's justification of not wanting to fight does make some sense because so many people will get killed, so many women will be widowed, so many family traditions will be lost, on and on and on. So he's saying in some ways he was justified. That's what he's saying.
So then that that actually is my second question. Then how can we call Arjun's question, then the entire questions that he's coming up with, then material, if he's thinking about other people's families and the future of their families and stuff?
Because families, people, they're still material. That's all on material consciousness, right? That's not a spiritual level. The spiritual level is what's good for the soul. Material level is what's good for me or for my relatives or my friends, etc.
I have a question.
Okay.
You know how you mentioned that when Arjuna was confused, he doesn't want to fight with his family and friends. So there is this thing that compassion towards others, whether it's your family or it's your friends, compassion is a good thing. That's what I understand, right? Now, yes, he is being compassionate. And if you look at it, I think it's the way we look at it. Compassion towards family, I think, it's a pretty good thing. Like you are being compassionate, but at the same time, Krishna's, the way it's presented, that his mind was deluded. He's not ready to fight. He's not ready to cause that harm to his family. So his intentions were pretty good, but I never really understand a point that how can that can be distinguished between material and spiritual. Like for a normal person like me to understand it, anybody in that situation would want to save their family, right? So it's like how one can be spiritually that strong, being a normal human being, to not cause that, that kind of sin. It's very difficult. And then knowing that he was like a very big devotee for our Lord Krishna, he was himself was confused. So I'm just like, compassion is a good thing. So why this was a problem?
Okay. Can I come back to this? Let me finish with Twinkle first because her question kind of got left unanswered. Okay, then I'll come back to you.
Sure.
Okay, so sorry, Twinkle. I just want to make sure I answer your question.
No, that's okay. If you want, we can go with that as well, because that I think will tie in this question somehow. That basically, when we were talking about the purpose of the material life and devotee life, and you kind of mentioned making the soul happy, and there were like two things that we need to have. Service without the material motivation, and then it should be non-stop. So my question to that was then how will we have that? How will we achieve that?
In your regular life? That's what you mean, right? You have a life to live.
Yeah.
How can you be constantly serving Krishna 24/7? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Shilpi, let me quickly answer that, then I'll come back to you, okay? Devotional service is not just chanting and reading and hearing. There are 9 ways of serving, 9 processes of devotional service. One of them is remembering. Remembering you can do 24/7. There is no problem with that. It doesn't require you to have the beads in your hand. It doesn't require a copy of Bhagavad Gita in your hand. It doesn't require you to be chanting loudly. What it requires is a consciousness that says, everything I have belongs to Krishna. Everything I'm doing is according to Krishna's plan, by Krishna's plan, with Krishna's mercy. Whatever results I'm getting, whether that's a promotion, or completion of a successful project, or completion of a grade, or a school, or university, or whatever, or anything, it's all a mercy of Krishna. So if we have that consciousness, everything belongs to Krishna, everything is property of Krishna, all my successes and failures are by Krishna's plan, whatever job, whatever role I'm doing is Krishna's plan, etc., etc., then you're constantly doing service of Krishna because your mind is fixed on Krishna. Yeah, you may be doing your project. Yeah, you may be studying. You may be, I don't know, whatever job you do, whatever studying you do, you may be doing all that. But your consciousness is that it's all by Krishna's mercy. It's all for Krishna. And I will take the results of whatever I do, dedicate to Krishna. Then you're always serving because you're conscious of that. Let me give you an example. I don't know if you rent a house or apartment, or a house, or you own one, but either way, if you have a small temple in your apartment or your house, and you say this apartment or this house belongs to Krishna, and this Krishna picture or deity I have is the boss, suddenly you have turned your apartment or your house into a temple. Now, everything you do in that apartment is serving to Krishna. For example, if you pay the rent or you pay mortgage, now you're paying it for Krishna because it's Krishna's house. Every time you cook, you're cooking for Krishna because you want to feed Krishna first. Every time you clean your house or your apartment, you're cleaning Krishna's temple. On and on and on. Every activity you do today is same, but the consciousness is different. And when the consciousness is different, then you're serving him. Then you're doing bhakti all the time, 24/7, no stopping. So it's the consciousness that makes the difference. Twinkle, does that make sense?
Yes, it reminds me of something my mom also said. So I moved into this house and I had Krishna in my hand, and my mom was like, he should be the first one coming in.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like,
thank you so much.
You're welcome. Our deity's name is Radha Govindji. So whenever I invite people in my email or whatever, I say, please come to the house of Radha Govindji. I don't say come to my house. This is not my house. It's theirs. Right? So it's just consciousness. Now, you're earning for Krishna. You're spending for Krishna. And all the time you have the thought, the money belongs to Krishna. He's given it to me to use it in his service. And that's all I'm doing. Sorry, Premji, go ahead.
I want to be very honest, and like, we have got a nice temple in our house. We call like boss, always address among ourselves, husband, wife.
Oh, I thought it was your wife you're talking about. Sorry, go ahead.
So we always say boss to him.
Uh-huh.
But you know what? Honestly, that feeling is not always there, like this is his house. We still get carried away many times.
Yeah, sure.
I'm telling the inner feelings actually.
No, but that's very good because you're honest with yourself, you're honest with your feeling, and therefore you can do something about it. If you don't even accept it, you never do anything about it.
Yeah, so sometimes it comes my house, like, why you forget it?
Sure. It's a condition. It's Maya Prabhu acting on us, our conditioning. We're not pure yet. It's trying. We're trying to be pure. Okay. Okay, Shilpi, sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. So you're talking about what's wrong with material compassion, correct?
Yes, Papa, like it was so like materialist, like, of course my mind has not grown to that level of spiritual world, to be very honest. Yes, I do read, like I've read Bhagavad Gitas before, good books there, but like still the material, I see the importance of material because when I came, I just use my example to Canada. When I moved as a student, I did not even know what Krishna conscious, like I was there, okay, you pray Krishna. I learned from my parents coming from that, religious background. Yes, I was very much involved in that. but like my understanding of it 5 years ago was very shallow because you are still struggling with your basic necessities of life, right? Then you move a step further, you pass those looking for jobs, all that's like, so as you move on in your life, definitely your understanding gets better. However, my question was like, in a normal, like a human being, like, like myself, how can someone really, put like balance out this materialistic is there, but I think you kind of answered it too, like, changing the way we do is like the house example was great. So keeping in mind, remembering that nothing belongs to us, is just, everything relates to Krishna. So I think that kind of really helped. But I say sometimes, yes, I personally struggle with materialistic. I think I do have goals, like I want more. It could be like greed, I don't know. But at the same time, I think it's more towards getting better for, my family. Like if I think Neetu mentioned some kind of a strong points in terms of, otherwise your life does become stagnant. And I'm sure Krishna doesn't want us to be lazy, or like, I have a great job, no problem. That doesn't mean I should not grow or want more.
So nobody's saying that being a devotee means you stop earning more, stop rising in your corporation, become a CEO, president, or whatever. Nobody's saying that. As a matter of fact,
more materialistic, isn't it?
Let me finish. The same activity can be materialistic or devotional, depending upon your attitude and the state of your mind. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada collected millions of dollars. That's a materialistic activity. He traveled in Rolls Royce, traveled by airplane. That's all materialistic. But was he doing materialistic activities? No, because his attitude was different. His consciousness was different. To him, whether it was a Rolls Royce or an old beat up Volkswagen Bug, it was the same, it didn't matter. Millions of dollars that he collected, not a single penny was for his personal use. But he had no problem collecting them. He acquired buildings, dozens and dozens of that, 108 of them. But does that mean he was just another capitalist trying to acquire property? No, but they're all meant for the service of Krishna. Let me give you one other example. Suppose the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi, or the CEO of Google or Microsoft or Facebook, they stand up in front of thousands of people and they say, I am a Hare Krishna. That's all they say. I am a Hare Krishna. What do you think the millions of people who hear them will do?
Laugh.
They will become Krishna conscious.
They will follow, of course.
Why? Because you want to follow these successful people.
Successful people.
Yeah.
Right? So if you become a CEO and you say, for my entire life, I have been Krishna conscious, and the reason of my success is Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
All those people who want to imitate you, who want to follow you in your footsteps, who want to become a CEO like you, they will start doing that. I'll give a very practical personal example. When I was studying at IIT, in the back of my notebooks, I would write down Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And people will ask me, hey, what's this? They had no idea. They had not heard any of that. And I'll tell them, this is my mantra to get my A's. And I got like almost all A's in all subjects. So they said, hey, you're showing me a practical example, therefore I'm going to write it too. So noted it down and they started writing in their notebook. So be ambitious. Work hard to go up the corporate ladder. become famous, become a multi-millionaire. Do all that.
So may I ask you a question?
Let me finish. Do all that. So people can say, her Krishna consciousness made her who she is, therefore I'm going to be Krishna conscious. And I want to be like that.
That's a very like great examples to understand things, to kind of connect those two.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I always see this two different. I don't like the idea.
No, they're not different. They're not different.
You cannot, like, I can like leave my duty and then be just like, but you kind of in like, connected two dots in a very nice way.
Yeah. Krishna never said stop working. Krishna never said leave your home, leave your job, go to a forest. He never said that. Actually, stopped Arjuna from doing that. Arjuna wanted to go to a forest. He said, no, take the kingdom. Lord Nrsimhadev, other incarnations have insisted that their devotees rule the whole universe for thousands of years. Enjoy this. Why? Because they knew that this devotee or these devotees will use it in my service and become an example for people like you and me.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, Krishna says, use all these materialistic things. Just don't think they are yours. That's all he's saying. So earn millions. Become a CEO, really. Just don't think you did it. You didn't do it. Krishna did it for you. So as long as you maintain that gratitude, you're fine. Go earn more money. I'll help you spend it if that's a problem.
I'll join you.
but go do it. There's no contradiction there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So
need to go ahead. Yeah.
I was saying when you were answering and you said your classmates or you told them you are writing Hare Krishna mantra at the end of the book, and that's why you're getting A's. And they started doing this. But I think anybody can conceive, if I only write the mantra, I will get A. So I guess I don't have to study, so that's why I feel the clarity has to be there. Many times, this is just my own personal, maybe because it's me, many times I feel I'm getting the message that no, it is just the Krishna, so it's not about karma as well. So that's what my doubt is.
So it's a very good doubt, and it's a really excellent point you're trying to make here. So no, Krishna never said, let me rephrase that. You've seen the picture on Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is talking to Arjun sitting there. You've seen pictures of Arjun fighting with a bow and arrow. Have you ever seen a picture of Arjun sitting back, kind of, like this, leaning back and saying to Krishna, I've surrendered, now it's your job, go fight. I'm going to sit here.
Right.
Do that? On the contrary, Krishna always said, you go fight. At least half a dozen times in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjun, Yuddha, Yuddha, Yuddha. You got to fight your battles. All he said was that fight your battles, but leave the results to me. He never said don't fight. So you got to fight. And by the way, it is your nature to fight. I don't mean need to, I mean everybody.
Yeah, yes.
It's our nature to fight.
But it is my nature. Hare Krishna. Fight means karma, like resilience.
Yes.
Failure, fine, it's okay, I failed, move on, get up and do it again.
Correct. Because failure or success is up to Krishna. Doing your duty is yours. You got to do your duty, leave the results to Krishna.
Right.
Okay? And so he never said, just go and chant and don't worry about it, I'll take care. He will, but he never said you should do it.
Yes. So I also want to, before you end this, you mentioned there are 8 ways to remember Krishna. So far, we only know remembering him 24/7.
No, I said 9 ways to serve Krishna.
Oh, 9 ways to serve. Okay.
And remembering is one of them.
Okay.
So hearing is one, chanting is one, remembering is one, doing arti is one, doing prayers is one, doing surrender is one, serving his lotus feet is one. So there's 9 of them.
Oh, but isn't Aarti prayer the same thing?
No, Aarti is the lamp thing. Prayers is you're doing some prayers, some bhajans, singing some bhajans.
Okay.
Often Aarti is accompanied by bhajans, but they're not the same thing.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Yes, Aarti.
Sorry, I had one quick question.
Okay, before you ask your question,
It's really linked to Shilpa's comment earlier about compassion, and at that moment of what to do, do I fight my own family?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
The question was, Shilpa brought up a really good point about, how do you, in that moment, decide to fight your own family if one has so much compassion towards their own family? So the question is like, how does one, I know that you're supposed to do your duty, and
I
Krishna
understand.
says that.
I understand. Okay. So here's another factor. The highest principle in life is to follow Krishna's instructions. That's the high. Nothing else matters. So if Krishna says, go fight these people and kill them, and he also says, by the way, don't think you are going to kill them. I've already killed them. I just want you to take the credit for killing them. Then it's okay, because now you're following direct instruction of Krishna. So if you have the direct instruction of Krishna to do something, and that requires that you get into a battle with your family, then you do it. If you don't have direct instruction, then you have to balance, see what's going on here. Right? So I know it makes it hard because we're conditioned to love our family. We're conditioned to not kill. We're conditioned to not fight. All those kind of things. It's hard. But if you have received an instruction, then you got to do it. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's what it is.
So I think
Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you.
You're welcome. Aarti, by the way, today is Aarti's birthday. So
tomorrow.
Tomorrow is her birthday. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to add one more point on that compassion question.
Yes.
So basically, it is how I look is so like, let's say if it is like Arjuna's Arjuna's position is now like a duty of a police officer or a lawyer who is like in a situation where his or her family member is a criminal, right? Like, or he is not doing the right thing and he has to fight against him. So he cannot, like, just because he is one of his family member, he cannot say that no, or because he has compassion with him, he cannot say that no, I will not fight, or I will not arrest him, or I will not give the judgment rightly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my point was, like, Arjuna, like in that situation, he was more like let's say he was like a police officer in his duty, and he had to fight this, right? Like, even though it was against his family members, he had to do this for the good of the future. Like, I mean, for the world to be safe.
Well, so I mean, remember that all sorts of efforts were made to avoid the war. This was last resort. Like, everything had been tried, so it was not a choice at this point anymore. Arjuna was introducing a different condition, saying that I don't want to fight. I want to give up and run away. So that is the issue that Lord Krishna addresses here. But your point is well taken, in that sometimes the duty requires that you fight with your family. I think Bollywood movies are full of stories like that, where the hero has to kill his brother or uncle or father for the sake of the duty. But the stories in Bollywood movies also come from our scriptures based on that. So yeah, there are many examples where for the sake of duty, somebody has had to battle or even kill some very close relatives. We just pray that we are never in that situation, because it's not easy to do. It's one thing to read about these things. It's totally different to be able to do it.
Yeah,
And we're not at that level yet. I mean, Arjun was after listening to Bhagavad Gita. At the end of it, he says, yes, I surrender and I will do whatever you ask me to do. We're not there yet. So it will be very difficult for us to do that.
Okay.
But the principle remains.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Anything else? Okay, so if there's nothing else.
I have a question.
Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Related to the previous question, as you were discussing about that you wrote down Hare Krishna Ma Mantra at the back of the book. And same thing, like when I teach my kids to believe in Krishna, write these things and surrender yourself. My daughter, when she was little, one time she asked, I don't believe in Krishna anymore. What happened? Because I prayed to him that please help me to win the game, and we lose the game on that day. And so he doesn't exist. He doesn't listen. And at that point, I didn't know what to say and how to react on it. Then I said a few words, okay, like something doesn't happen nicely to us, but we still believe in Krishna. It didn't happen to like according to what our desires were. It went wrong way, other way, but we get it according to our karma. And she said, if we get according to our karma, so it's gonna come to us whatever, the way it's supposed to be. But then why we need to worship Krishna? So it was very hard for me to answer because I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't know what to do. Could you please guide me a little bit how to react at that point when kids comes up to these kind of questions to us?
So first of all, I want to acknowledge that your child is very intelligent, because they're really good questions. And so first of all, we should be careful about setting wrong expectations with our children. Sometimes tempting to say it, but it's not right to say that if you chant Hare Krishna mantra, you will succeed, that your wishes will come true. So the right answer is pray to the Lord. And if He wants, He'll give you the result you want. But it's still His choice. Just because you're praying to Him, just because you're chanting, He does not become your servant. You can't order it. He's not forced to do what you want from Him. And that should be always made clear. Otherwise, the problem we ran into can happen. So we have to be careful. That's the first thing. Second thing is, why do we want to serve Krishna? We want to serve Krishna because that is our real duty. We have forgotten that that's our duty. So we remember that we must serve. So we serve somebody. Sometimes we serve our parents. Sometimes we serve our children. Sometimes we serve our neighbors, our community, or the country. Sometimes we serve our boss or the clients. Everybody's serving somebody. But by serving Krishna, we are being reminded that that's the real boss. That's the real person we need to please. And if we please Him, we will be pleased. And that's why we serve Him. And if we really please Him, then He'll take all the miseries away and take us to a place where there is no misery, and that's the place where He lives. And that's why we serve Him. Just keep it very simple, straightforward. Don't set wrong expectations that, if you chant or if you serve Krishna, then nothing will ever go wrong. Things will go wrong because that's the nature of this world. And we won't always get what we want because Krishna maybe doesn't want us to get what we want. If you lose a game, then you work harder next time. If you keep winning all the time, you'll stop working hard. You will not get better. Right?
Yeah. Thank you. Very nice answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, so I think we should stop. And so I'll see you next week. If anybody still has outstanding questions, you're welcome to write me an email and I'll try to answer it. Otherwise, we'll wait until the next week. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you,
very
Prabhu.
much.
Very nice class.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a very nice class.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for waking up so late for us.
Oh, no, it's okay. That's no worries. No worries. Not my time.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Beta. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.